Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me once again. My name is Robin Clark and this is Chapter 3 of the Quick Start Guide for ExtendSim. This guide has been broken down into 5 chapters. This video is on Chapter 3. We will be working on how to build the simple model shown here. The keys to successful modeling starts with this simple process. Start simple. Plan what you are about to build it, then test it and fix the bugs you find. After testing, add more detail and test again. I want to emphasize the planning and testing part of this process. Thoroughly test your model while building it. It will actually have a significant impact on shortening the project duration. There is a lot more to say about this topic, but I will postpone this discussion until later. This example simulates a simple car wash. We have a new car arriving about every 4 minutes. The cars will wait until it is their turn in the wash. The wash takes about 6 minutes. Then the car will leave. Go ahead and launch ExtendSim. When you launch ExtendSim, the Getting Started model opens as well as the major ExtendSim libraries and their library windows. Go ahead and close the Getting Started screen using the red X at the top of the worksheet window. Next, we will open up a new model. We can use the toolbar button or the file menu to open up a new model. My preference is to use the toolbar button. A new model window should open with an executive block on the leftmost side of the worksheet. If the executive block did not get added automatically, then you probably don't have the necessary libraries open. You should verify that the item library is in the list of default libraries that opens with ExtendSim. This is done through the Options dialog under the Edit menu. You should close and relaunch ExtendSim if you had to make this modification. The first thing to do here is to set up the run length of the simulation parameters dialog. Click on the Run menu and select the Simulation Setup option. The default values shown here should let the simulation run for 1,000 generic time units. We need to change this. For this example, we want the simulation to run for 480 minutes. We need to change the end time to 480 and the global time units to minutes. Once we have that set, we can click OK and go back to the model worksheet. And now we should save the model. There are 3 methods for doing this. I will point out all 3 methods and you can pick your favorite. The first method should be to click on the File menu. You will notice all of the typical options available under the File menu, such as starting a new model, opening an existing model, opening a recent model, saving a model as a different name. For this, we want to select either Save Model or Save Model As. You can also click on the Save icon on the toolbar. Since the file has not been named previously, the typical Save Model As window will appear after you click the Save icon. We could also select Ctrl+S on the keyboard if you like keyboard shortcuts. After we initiate the save, the typical Save Model As window appears. The model can be saved into a destination of your choice. Now we want to name the model at the bottom of the dialog. When finished, you will see the model name on the top of the model worksheet. We will use a handful of blocks shown here. The blocks that we will be using includes the executive, the create, queue, activity, and exit, as well as the line chart. There are 2 methods we will be using to build this model, the point and click method and the smart block method. Let's start with the point and click method. First, click on the block in the library window. Next, click on the spot where you want to place it on the worksheet. This would be somewhere to the right of the executive block. Let's see that in action through this video. We will use the smart block techniques to place the remaining blocks on the worksheet. On the model worksheet, right-click on the block's Out connector, and from this list, select the new block to add. This places the new block on the right of the original and makes the appropriate connection. Let's see that in action through this video. Once again, on the model worksheet, right-click on the block's Out connector, and from this list, select the new block to add. This places the new block to the right of the original and makes the appropriate connection. Now we want to add the exit block, but you will need to navigate to the item library. To do this, simply right mouse click on the item's output connector, select the item library in the list, then select the exit through the pop-up window. Finally, use the smart block method to add the line chart block. The line chart block from the chart library is useful for tracing the history of values during the simulation run. We want the chart block to report the total number of cars that have been washed and the length of the waiting line. Once again, on the model worksheet, right-click on the block's output connector, and from this list, select the new block to add. Add the line chart to the value output connector of the exit, and the line chart block will appear on the model. Now we want to report the queue length. We could use another line chart block, or we could use another connector from the line chart block we already have. Let's use the one we already have and let it report both statistics. Hover over the output connector located on the bottom right of the icon. The connector will enlarge when you are about at the right spot. Click once on the output connector. Then go to the line chart's input connector. The connector will enlarge when you are in the right spot. Then click once on the line chart's input connector to make the connection. The lines are a little messy. The next task is to clean them up. Right-click on the connection line and select Freeform Connection or Right Angle Connection. Move the line segments as desired by selecting and moving the line. If you want to add additional points on the line, simply right-click on the line again and select Add Points from the menu. Let's see that in action through this video. Now we can save the model. Now we need to enter the dialog parameters and settings. Let's start with the Create block first. Double-click on the block and open up the dialog. In the Create tab of the Create block, change the mean time to 4, as we want cars to arrive approximately every 4 minutes. Next, label the block Dirty Cars at the bottom. In the Animation tab, change the 2D picture and select the car. Open the dialog for the queue block. Label the block Entry Line. That is all that we need to do in the queue. Open the dialog for the Activity block. The dialog capacity is set to 1, and we should leave it at 1. Set the delay to 6 minutes. Label the block Wash Bay at the bottom. Open the dialog for the Exit block. Label the Exit block. That is all that we need to do to the Exit block. Next, let's set up the line chart. As this model is constructed, The line chart will get the number of cars that have been washed throughout its top input connector and the number of cars waiting to be washed on the third input connector. Open the line chart block. Right-click on the block's graph window. Select the Trace Editor option where you specify how the lines are drawn on the graph. First, change the labels of the two trace names, as shown here. Second, change the line style on the first and the third trace to interpolated. Simply click on the box until you have the right option. Now close the Trace Editor window. Now that the new labels appear in the key, you can resize the key and place it anywhere you want on the graph. Now we want to update the graph properties. Right-click on the block's graph window. Select the Graph Properties option where you customize the titles, colors, and other properties of the axis. Update the titles of the graph, the X and the Y axis as shown here. Then, close the Graph Properties window. Now go to the Dialog tab and set the block label. Label the block chart. This is done at the bottom of the dialog. We are now ready to save the model using one of the three ways we have previously discussed. Your model should now look like this. You may turn on the animation if you want. The animation can be turned on and off using the button shown here on this toolbar. Now we want to run the model. There are three methods we could use to run the model. Let me point out all three methods and you can pick your favorite. First, we could click on the Run Simulation button on the toolbar. Or we could select the Run Simulation option on the Run menu. Finally, we could use a keyboard shortcut by selecting Ctrl-R. Now, let's watch the model run with animation. Now that we have run the model, let's verify the results. Notice the 38 vehicles in the line and the 77 that completed. Is that correct? According to my calculations on the left side, that is correct. Your numbers may differ a little because there is randomness in this model. Next, open up the line chart. The cars washed and the cars waiting make sense. Notice the blue line for the cars washed going up to about 77. Notice the green line for the cars waiting hovering just underneath 40. Now we want to save the model. There are three methods we could use to save the model, all of which we have discussed earlier in this chapter. My preference is to use the Save button on the toolbar. This concludes the video for Chapter 3. In the next video, we will expand on this same tutorial.